Alright, first of all, before we get started, make sure y'all give yourself a pat on the back. Welcome to PoE2 Endgame. I know it was a long ass journey from that story mode. Act 1 to the interludes, I swear to God, it took me like 3 days by itself. But we finally here, and I decided, there's a whole bunch of new people. Probably a couple of people started from the beginning of PoE2's life cycle. Um, or a couple of people probably started from like PoE 1, returning to PoE 2, whatever the case is. I wanted to make a video kind of educating y'all on some of the end game mechanics you're gonna see, like the seasonal mechanics. You kind of got a taste of it in the story mode in a couple of chapters or acts or whatever. But I want to just give y'all a general, like bigger breakdown, um, because it kind of gives you a framework of what you want to work towards, if you want to like farm shit or whatever the case is. And also, I just don't want y'all to be blindsided because while PoE 2 has a really good tutorial system and a way of teaching you things, I feel like some things are still left to your own research. So, just trying to broaden that gap for y'all and hopefully, save y'all some time. So, look, if you like my content, I'm gonna be real, just show some love. A like and subscribe goes a long way. But I also know the vibes. Sometimes you just catch my videos out of nowhere. And if you just come by for the one video, I appreciate the view, gang. But anyways, let's get right into it. So, couple prerequisites that I want to kind of get out the way real quick. So I'm going to talk about things called pinnacle bosses while I'm describing each of the main 5 seasonal mechanics that they got right now. T15 maps are needed in order to even have a chance to access these PoE2 like the pinnacle bosses and shit like that. You should be at least up to T15 maps to handle them decently well. I want to explain the realm gate. So you're gonna see in the map in the beginning area is kind of on the bottom right of the starting area when you first get into the atlas. There's a thing called the realm gate. So throughout your mapping and once you're getting into these seasonal mechanics, some of them drop splinters, which is like this currency that you're not gonna know what the fuck to do with it. But once you get a certain amount of that currency, whether it's like 300, we'll kind of get into more detail once we describe each of them. But you're gonna use that realm gate in order to access the pinnacle bosses. Um, that's later on in the game, though. You don't really need to worry about that. I will break down how to access these pinnacle bosses within each of the seasonal mechanics. And I'll also try to make sure to break down the video into different sections. So if you have a specific seasonal mechanic that you want to look into, it'll be a little bit easier for y'all. But alright, let's get into it. Almost fucking broke my big toe. Alright, let's talk about Breach. Now, have you ever walked around and seen a hand popping out of the ground and just wondering who the fuck is getting fisted? That is a breach. So breach is one of the more simpler seasonal mechanics. There's not really much to it. Essentially, a hand comes out of the ground, and then monsters like flood the ground around you within the circle. You're gonna see the circle is kind of like a white chalk line, and it continuously progresses out. Now, you're gonna kill monsters within this circle, right? They're gonna be surrounding you, and they're pretty boosted. I ain't even gonna hold you. They do some damage, but if you could kill them decently fast and continuously progress through the circle, it'll last a lot longer. There's also clasped hands within the map itself, that you'll see that you're gonna want to destroy because it drops a specific currency that comes out. Well, not really currency, but it's like a consumable from the actual class stand. So make sure to look out for those as well. Try not to go into a straight line, kind of run diagonally, kind of walk around because they're scattered throughout. So, some of the things that comes out of breach, like uh, the reason why people even can consider even farming it is for breach rings. Breach rings are super dope items. Essentially, most base rings can get up to 20% currency, 20% quality. Uh, if you haven't figured out what quality is yet, it just basically increases the percentages um, of your prefixes and suffixes, or whatever innate modifiers that the item's base probably has. So you want to always want to increase your currency to max. Now, breach rings just allow you to have an extra 30%, up to 30%. Sometimes it could just be like 25, 40%, I think, around that range. Uh, Once you could get a white version of a breach ring, and then essentially just craft on top of it, and now you have a perfect ring with almost double the amount of quality that you had before. Once you get to min-maxing your build later on down the line, you know, close to like level 95 and shit like that, you can start focusing on breach rings. It's good to have too because, you know, it is a decent amount. Don't get me wrong, you could find some for like a couple exalteds, but I know once you're getting up to like higher leveled breach rings, you could go anywhere near, you know, a couple chaos to a divine. All depends on what people feeling. Oh, talked about the currency, well, the consumable. It's called Catalyst. So just off of my notes real quick. So it could be placed into accessories like rings and amulets to increase quality on specific stat groups and their percentages. So, um, kind of like I haven't really messed with Catalyst that much just because my build hasn't gotten to that level that I would need it to yet. But increasing the quality on specific like it won't affect all prefixes and suffixes, only one specific stat group, and it'll tell you on the catalyst as well. I'll probably put some examples here, um but it'll tell you exactly which stat group. So it's probably going to be like, for instance, the fire res or fire modifiers or whatever the case is. It'll only affect those. So catalysts are really good if you have a particular modifier that you really want boosted. Like, I'm not too sure if there's a catalyst for this, but just as an example, there might be a catalyst that boosts with a specific chaos damage modifier, and you know, it's just another way to add even more power level to your build. So I think there is a decent market for them. I'm not too sure. I don't really use the currency trader for catalyst. They drop a decent amount for me. Again, I just don't even use it, but I'm sure that as far as like the examples that I'll show in the video, it should go for some decent amounts. Now, getting on to the fun part of breaches is, of course, it drops splinters, which I said previously is a currency that some of these seasonal mechanics drop out. And if you collect 300 of them, I'm gonna put the correct answer somewhere here, but it's within 250. Yeah, it's within 250 and 300 splinters. Um, to basically, once you combine them together, you can make a breach stone. Once you get into a breach stone, that is where you're going to be able to fight my big boy Zesht. Uh, he is the pinnacle boss of breach. I'm not going to get into a build like a fight guide for him in this video. I might do a specific one, but I actually need to fight Zesht. Uh, but just know he is a pinnacle boss. Make sure to be well kitted for it. For any more advanced oh shit. For any more advanced guides on like anything that I talked about today, because I'm very, very surface level, I am far from an expert. Um, Definitely look into Rax and Terra, Darth microtransaction, the whole PoE2 community. You could, you know, check their videos and stuff for more deeper breakdowns and better guides on specific, you know, examples in this game. But yeah, I'm just gonna try to give y'all as much of a surface level explanation as possible just to get the beginners through the door, and not be blind going into it, because I was definitely blind. Like everything was kind of thrown at me at once, not with just PoE 2, but I started in PoE 1. So even in that game, there was like a clusterfuck of information that you needed to know, and then to find out that people who've been playing the fucking game for thousands of hours are still confused on certain mechanics of the game too. You know, it's gonna take me a minute before I could even claim that I got viable information. But at least this shit is like surface level enough to where like once I explain it, hopefully y'all got um a little bit of like hopefully y'all get some drive to want to research it later on, you know. get deeper into it. So yeah, going back to it. So yeah, Zesht. He, like I said, he's a pinnacle boss, and he got some decent items. I do have the list pulled up here. I'm gonna put later on in the editing, put some like prices of items far as like today's standpoint. But for instance, let's go ahead and take a quick. All right, resume. So for Zesh, you got stuff like Skin of the Loyal, for instance. It's plus 5 to 40% of all elemental resistances. Main modifiers are here is energy shield is increased by overcapped cold resistance, and evasion rating is increased by overcapped lightning resistance. Unfortunately, my build didn't really take resistances into effect much. It's very much a glass cannon, and I'm focusing most on my energy shield to tank everything that I need. But, um, yeah, if you somehow got way over the caps, which is 75% for each resistances, that just adds on to your different defensive modifiers. So that's pretty sick. Then you also have, for instance, uh, a Lapis Amulet, the Pandemonious. Damage penetrates 75% cold resistance, blind chilled enemies on hit. Ice builds, you already got some going on over there. Then Hand of Wisdom in action. I actually have this right now. That 1% increase attack speed per 20% per 20 dexterity was so helpful on my what, oh my god, what is that motherfucker? The crossbow motherfucker. I had that on him, and it helped out because I min-maxed my fucking dex, my my dex attribute, and I was just shooting shit. There was no reload speed at all. Yeah, there was no fucking delay in between my shots and shit. I loved it. Um, Control Metamorphosis is a diamond. Uh, it's a medium large range ring. Passives and radius can be allocated without being connected to your tree. You get negative 20 to 5% to all elemental resistances. So it got some negative effects to it because you could also get some negative chaos resistance on there too. Um, but it at least gives you some extra wiggle room when it comes to passive tree allocation. So it's pretty sick. Choir of the Storm and then the Jade Amulet. Um, Sick item art, by the way. I wish some of these you could like see it in game. It doesn't look like that ever, but you can't even see your amulets and shit. But that card art looks sick. Anyways, it's plus 10 to 15 dexterity, plus 20 to 30% lightning resistance, critical hit, ignores enemy monster lightning resistance, and trigger lightning bolt skill on critical hit. So it essentially has a cast on effect within its modifiers, as well as penetrating lightning resistance. So super super dope as well. I could see that working really good with a monk. My monk specifically when I was using lightning storm. So that's pretty sick. But anyway, as you can see, uh, Breach got some items, man. Zesh got some items. Um, like I said, Breach is pretty fun. The only advice I could really give you is just know you're going to be swarmed. So area of effect and magnitude is helpful. Make sure that you are just prepared to get clusterfucked. Always like you always want to progress forward, but also continuously move around if you need to. Like, don't just stand in one place or move in one place, especially if your build can't handle something like that. Like, play around that, but just know the quicker that you defeat all these monsters, the longer this breach is gonna last, and even more items are gonna spill. Catalyst galore, evenly. So that's breach. Um, let's go ahead and get into the second seasonal modifier, which is Expedition. Now, Expedition is fun. If you ever wanted to feel like one of those motherfuckers that be stealing shit from the pyramids and stuff, the researchers and shit, this is your fantasy right now. Expedition. So essentially in expeditions you're going to meet up with a couple of NPCs. You got Danig, Tuhin, Gwenin, and Rog, right? Shout out to my boy Rog, by the way. when you get there, you're gonna notice that there's a couple of things popping up out from the ground. Um, kind of looks like these pitched fucking picket signs and shit. These are essentially dig sites, right? Whole point of this seasonal mechanic is you get about 5 bombs. I'm pretty sure probably in the Atlas tree you could increase how many bombs you get, but by default you get 5. You're basically placing these bombs near these picket fences, which make sure you read them because I'm about to get into some very important information that, like, if you blow it up in the incorrect order, it may affect like the rewards overall. But yeah, you place the bombs wherever you need it to, and then you detonate it. And as you detonate it, monsters start arising from these dig sites, and you essentially just wipe them out. They drop currency, and then also there's like little chests and shit that pop up here and there, that got some decent items. Uh, and yeah, you fucking feeling like Indiana Jones or some shit. You know what I mean? Couple of key pieces of information is remember to read the picket fences. I'm going to establish that because there is something called remnants that essentially increase mob difficulty and boost rewards, but only affects dig sites after activation. So essentially, just to break that down, because I didn't even know this myself, this was just off my own research, but essentially you go to one of these picket fences, most likely it might be glowing like gold or something. Um, and if it says remnant dig site or something similar to that, that's one of the ones that you would want to pop on first or blow up first, mainly because after you blow that up, those remnants are going to cascade across the rest of the monsters for the other 4 dig sites that you end up exploding. So it doesn't affect anyone that was previously already open. You feel me? So that's why you want to really pay attention to where you place in these bombs, which one's gonna explode first, because it explodes in succession. Um, so make sure you always take advantage of the remnants. If you don't, it's really like using a white map at that point. Um, and yeah, that's probably the biggest piece of information as far as like putting down the explosives. Some monsters drop artifacts, which is essentially the currency that these different NPCs that I named previously uses in their trade shop. And their trade shop, yeah, has some, pretty good items, pretty good items. You could also use the recombinator, which is something I just learned recently, which essentially takes like 2 of the same base item, but upgraded all the way to rares, and you have a chance to combine them and take the best from the both items, like the best and the worst, and it combines them in a way that you don't know. You have a chance to make some really cracked shit. You have some chances to brick some items, but to each its own. It is an option, but you could use artifacts for that. And of course, like expedition logbooks, which is just essentially maps that you could give over to Danik, um, and then he activates them, which essentially opens up a bigger map that's all expedition. So you just going around. Yeah, I think he gives you like 20 or 10 explosives. You just go around, you place them. Remember to keep track of your remnants and stuff, and also don't overjuice it too, because I do that a lot, where like I overdo the remnants, and now all of these monsters are dumb buffed, and then there's nothing I can do. So just make sure that you keep track of what you're putting onto them. Let's talk about the Pinnacle boss real quick. Um, Pinnacle boss is my boy Olroth. It's pretty simple to get him. All you need is a level 79 plus expedition logbook, and then you have I can't remember, it's like a 1 in 10 chance to possibly have him spawn for you. You'll see him as a little skull icon on the expedition map, so you could kind of just like brush your way over there if you want. I recommend clearing out the logbook altogether and get your items from there, so that way when you clear the pinnacle boss, there ain't nothing else you gotta do. Let's go ahead into expedition unique. So Olroth drops a couple of different items. I don't really hear a lot of talk about his items. For instance, Olroth's Resolve, which is a what is that? Ultimate life flask. Excess life recovery added as guard for 10 seconds. Guard is an interesting mechanic. Let me see. Guard is a buff that provides a buffer against damage from hits, taking the damage before your life and energy shield until the buff expires. Oh, so it's just another defensive mechanic that essentially guards your energy shield and life. uh, like a third layer essentially. Then you got the club, which is Mjolnir, I guess. On hitting an enemy, gain maximum added lightning damage equal to the enemy's power for 6 seconds, up to a total of 500 lightning builds. I don't know if warriors have some lightning builds that they could look into, but what does the Torment Club do for you? Does it add anything? Does it take away? What's up? I know a lot of the uniques right now are kind of basura anyway, so. Keeper of the Ark. Take 30% less damage from hits, take 30% less damage over time. And it's a dope looking crown. I actually like it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's the cover art mask, but might be wrong. Then you got the Timeless Jewel, Remembrancing Songworthy Deeds by the line of Varana passives. I'll let you know I had a jewel like this in sorry. I had a jewel like this in PoE 1 and I had to look up what exactly it did. Essentially, for all of the nodes that it affects, it adds a specific like ability to your build. You have to research it a little bit. I'm not really too sure, but it is beneficial once you learn what it exactly does. So if it ever says some weird ass line of text, just do a quick Google search. You'll figure it out pretty quickly. Um, and then, you know, of course, the tower shield, you take 15 to 20% of damage from blocked hits. Okay. Chance to block damage is lucky. Can we make a full luck build? Lucky things will roll twice and the better results is used. That's fun. Alright. I wish I could play around with luck more, but we don't have any luck with the witch. It's just straight death. And me personally, my biggest tip for Expedition, like I said, read the picket signs. Don't waste your time. Make sure that you know which dig site is being affected. If there's remnants in sight, do you want to explode that one first? Things of that nature. Um, Look into the artifacts. There's probably some good items within one of the different NPCs. Once you get into late game and you start realizing that you might need to craft items in order to get them for a decent price, look into the Recombinator. Sometimes you could surprise yourself with some of the items that it poops out. So that would be my biggest tip. Next thing is Delirium. Now Delirium was always something that confused me even in PoE 1. Um, but after doing a little bit of research, it makes a lot more sense. So essentially, Delirium can be accessed one of two ways. So the first way is, have you ever popped into a map and the first thing that you see is this giant vagina? Like, it's a big giant white vagina that's like standing next to you and it just follows you. Like, follows the direction that you're moving, but it doesn't move. It's like right in the front of the map. That's essentially Delirium. You just walk through it, it creates a Delirium encounter. The second way, and I'm going to break this down a little bit later, is by instilling a waystone with liquid emotion, which is another consumable item that you acquire through Delirium encounters. Strictly talking about the mirror for right now, which is the big vagina, you got to progress through the map in order to keep it active, or it goes away after idle. You can also just um, end it altogether by clicking like the little fast forward icon. I believe it's on the bottom right of the map. It should be at bottom right of the HUD. It should be right next to where your liquid emotions are. Click that, you can end it immediately if you wanted to. But realistically, in order to just keep it open, just walk around map as you usually do. Just don't stay idle for too long, because you could picture it as a big ass like fog or like cloud that surrounds you, and you just gotta stay within that cloud throughout the whole time. So should be fairly easy. It doesn't move that fast. So and then also I think on the Atlas tree you can tear into it to make it last longer as well. But if you instill a waystone with liquid emotion, it is permanent. Um, Progressing through the map with Delirium active, you're gonna see. Oh, by the way, let me break down what Delirium actually does. So, what Delirium does, it just makes the monsters stronger. It's just basically just a buff to the monsters. So while you're going through the map, the monsters are basically double the difficulty of what they usually is. Like more health, more attack speed, more damage altogether. It's just it just makes the map harder. But the items that come out of it is super good. And it's worth it, you know what I mean? Like, the thing with PoE2 is, like, yes, it's difficult, but the difficulty is worth it when it pays off with a decent item. Walking around the actual Delirium map, you're gonna see these little pools of, like, water, kinda. It kinda looks like just bluish fog, but it'll stand out within the map. If you walk through it, keep in mind, it's gonna spawn a pack of monsters. It's killed me multiple times. Be wary of that. Also, just understand too that you don't need to rush through other mechanics in case like Delirium, is active, because it stays paused while you're doing other mechanics. So you don't have to worry if you're doing an Abyss and you have Delirium. The monsters are gonna be hard as shit, but you're gonna still be able to, what's it called, have it active, and it's double the reward. So why not? Now, talking back to liquid emotions. Liquid emotions is something I've also just started using as well. It instills notable passives from anywhere on the passive tree to an amulet, and it also adds delirium to maps. So, talking more on the notable passives, that shit is so cracked. So when you're on the passive tree, have you ever noticed like when you hover over one of the bigger waystones, like one of the no waystones, passive stones that have like more unique modifiers on it, you're gonna see like these three little potion bottles that's on top with different colors. You collect those liquid emotions and you're able to instill it on a amulet and use that waystone without having to have any points dedicated to getting a track over there. Uh, it's so fun, it's so beneficial because now you can really like make your build as unique as you want to, because you don't have that restriction of do I have enough passive points to even get to that side, because the Atlas tree, not the Atlas tree, the passive tree is fucking huge. So most of the time wasting uh skill points to get there makes no sense. So instilling an amulet with a waystone just benefits you altogether. So I know the trading site absolutely loves them. You could get them for decent prices or sell them for decent prices as well. The trade market for that goes all the time. I be trading that all the time. So, and then from Delirium, you also get splinters as the consumable. Collecting, I believe, with splinters for Delirium, it works a little bit differently. So there's a range. You could either use up to 250 down to 75, I think, and it creates like a simulacrum, which allows you to walk through it like a regular map, clear it out. It's basically a delirium map. Another quick benefit, so when you're doing the simulacrum splinters and you're creating the waystone, make sure you check the modifiers because some of them shits is so fucking cracked. Just be careful. I know it wasn't too much of a big explanation on it, it really just sounds basic as fuck, but Delirium is one of the best ways to just increase your overall chance of getting better items. It's harder for sure. That's my biggest tip to you, is understand that it's hard. And once you get up to higher tier maps, you're definitely going to need to um, tier into Delirium for sure and make sure that you can, not die immediately, because that kills the whole Delirium encounter. But yeah, just remember it's hard as shit. Uh, and then with Delirium, it's kind of weird with the Pinnacle bosses. They have technically two. It all depends. So when you're rolling 250 splinters, remember you gotta have a T79 plus waystone in order to do it. Once you create the actual waystone and you progress through it, you have a chance of getting one of these two different Pinnacle bosses. Right now it's only showing me Kosis's unique items, but just know that there's two. Just taking a quick look at it. Ooh, that quarterstaff is really nice. 2 to 4 level to all elemental skills. Trigger skills refund half of energy spent. Wow, okay, that's a mana hoarder. Like that. 10 to 40% chance to avoid chaos damage from hits. Enemies in your presence are intimidated. What does intimidated mean? This is the armor, by the way. Intimidate is a buff that debuffs the Intimidate is a debuff that inflicts 10% increased damage taken and 10% reduced damage taken. Okay, okay. So it's a defense and an offensive modifier. That's pretty sick. Melting Maelstrom, Ultimate Mana Flask. As chaos damage, every 3 seconds during effect, deal 50% of mana spent in those seconds as chaos damage to enemies within 3 meters. Any chaos damage in the chat? This is that's something that you could probably look into. Struggle Scream can have 2 additional instilled modifiers. It's a stellar amulet. That one sounds cracked, so that means you could have 2 different notable passive stones put onto that amulet. That's pretty sick. And then you got some diamonds on there. It says allocates passive skills, so I'm assuming that it just allows you to put more passive skills onto those jewels to use it. Pretty sick. I think Delirium is fun. It's aggravating as fuck. You're gonna die a lot, but it's fun and it's needed, if that makes sense. Like it's required in order to get the most out of your maps. Alright, here's my favorite so far. Abyss. So it's the new seasonal mechanic in PoE 2, just came out with 0.3 Rise of the Abyssal League. It is it's an old seasonal mechanic from PoE 1. I remember that. Can't remember how it exactly plays. If I think it plays exactly the same. But in PoE 2, this is how it goes. So essentially, you're walking through the map. You're gonna somehow stumble past cracks on the ground. Now those cracks on the ground had green fog coming out. You most likely not even see the green fog and shit yet, because most likely the monsters is already barreling their way towards you. One way to know that they're from an abyss is they're gonna be glowing green. That's an abyss monster. Kill those motherfuckers. Once you kill enough of those motherfuckers, the cracks are gonna slowly start like basically completing. You're gonna see the green fog slowly like go towards the middle pit. Once the pit is completely filled up, all of the monsters from underneath the ground is going to start escaping, and they're going to flood, and they're going to flood fast. And most of the time they have like 2 rares to maybe 3 rares pop out of those pits with some dumb fucking modifiers and some crazy ass skills. Like for one, you're going to find somebody who does like a Kamehameha wave at you, and it like tracks. Yeah, it's bullshit like that. But once you kill all of them, the pit closes up, and then you have a chance to basically obtain a treasure chest at the end. This helped me out a lot once I figured it out, but there's 3 different chests. So there's the coffer, which provides currency. Then you got the arsenal, which acquires weapons and jawbones, and then armories, which gives you armor and rib cages. Now, the rib cages and the jawbones is going to make a little bit more sense when I explain it in a second. But there's a step beyond that too. So as you're going through maps, you're actually going to be able to unlock this in Act 2. But as you destroy more of these abyssal pits and complete them, you have a chance to open up a bigger crack within the ground, which is the Abyssal Depth. Abyssal Depth is essentially a sub-map within the map that you can go around, kill the same rare monsters. They're all abyssal monsters, and at the end you're going to get some troves, which is the treasure chest, and then the large treasure chest, which has a chance to have some lineage support items in there. Super sick. And then once you get up to, I believe it's T79 maps, T15, yeah, so T15 maps, once you go into the Abyssal Depth, you're gonna have a chance to kill one of the abyssal bosses. It's I think like there's 2 or 3. Kill one of those bosses. They're fairly hard from what I understand. I've seen a couple of videos. I haven't witnessed them myself, but once you kill one of them, they're gonna drop a fragment called Kulamek's Invitation, which is then, of course, your invitation to go whoop some ass to the pinnacle boss of Abyss, which is the Vessel of Kulamek. Again, go and check out Rax's video or Darther's video or whoever is doing it for a better guide on them. But yeah, I mean, it's a fairly simple, and then you could just do it while you're doing the actual seasonal mechanic through maps. So if you have the chance, then great. If not, you at least have a chance at a lineage support item. And the abyssal troves usually have some decent currency in there. I think I got a couple of like I think I got like a stack of 5 chaos from an abyssal coffer before. I like abyss. Abyss right now is overtuned like shit, so please keep that in mind. Don't feel like it's you. Trust me, the shit is just it's on 10 24/7, so just keep that in mind. But besides that, I love Abyssal. I think Abyssal is my favorite so far. Oh, another big thing for Abyssal, Heart of the Well, big chase item. It's a jewel that has 4 desecrated mods on. I didn't even talk about desecration. I am so sorry. Holy shit. Desecration. So as you're killing monsters within the abyss, and then you open the troves, you have a chance to get jawbones, and you have a chance to get rib cages, and they're different tiers too. I can't remember what they're called, but I think one of them is like rusted, and the other one is like pristine or whatever. You apply those to whatever it indicates, so it could be whether your armor, your weapon. I think some of them do rings and rings and amulets. You apply that to the item, and then once you do that, you'll be able to go to this area in Act 2. You should have been able to unlock it naturally if you once you completed the game. But if you haven't, it's in Act 2. I'll put the actual area on the map so you can kind of have a general gist of where to find it. You go in there, and there's interactable called the Well of Souls that you take your desecrated item, chuck that bitch in there, pops back out, and now you have a choice of one of 3 modifiers. Sometimes one of the modifiers could be one that the item doesn't even naturally roll, which is super cool. Uh, but yeah, you just have a choice of one of 3 modifiers, so it's kind of like a pick your own poison situation. I love it. By the way, Coolamex invitation, another thing I want to throw out there. It needs access to the Well of Souls as well, because that's where you place the invitation once you get it from one of the pinnacle bosses in order to one of the abyssal bosses in order to access the actual endgame area. So um, keep that in mind as well. But yeah, I think Abyss is a really good way to min-max your items too. That desecration modifier, depending on what it is, could benefit your shit exponentially. And they always give me good choices too. So even if you don't find the exact one you're looking for, the ones they give you is viceable as well. So well, it is the last of the main 5 that have a pinnacle boss attached to it. So there is a couple of side ones that I'll quickly touch upon. I'll put bigger videos for them later on. For right now, I do want to touch on Ritual, which is an archaic seasonal mechanic. It's been around forever. It's fairly simple. Once you're going through maps, you're going to see these totems that pop out the ground, and you just walk up to it. You interact with it. Once you interact with it, it basically closes out this whole circle area. Outside of it is now null and void, shadowy, can't even look out of it, you can't walk past it, you're stuck inside that circle. While you're in that circle, monsters are going to continuously keep spawning. Your goal is to fuck those motherfuckers up. Once you do that, the area opens back up, and now the totem is accessible. Once you are able to access it, it has a shop within it. Once you killed all the monsters or whatever, you also get a whole bunch of currency called tribute that you use at these said totems. And these totems, as you clear more of them throughout the map, sometimes there's 3, sometimes there's 5, there's a whole bunch of them. But as you clear more and more and more of these items are going to be revealed, because once you open up the first totem, most of the ones to the left side are all blank. You got to clear more and more tributes in order to essentially unlock those items, and you have a chance at like some good ass bases. I saw some rares in there that actually I bought specifically to use in my build while I'm leveling. And then of course currency in there as well. But one of the biggest things from tributes, I keep calling it tributes, from rituals, is the omens. So omens are a big chase item, mainly because it affects your currency items and basically helps you tell the future when you're crafting. For instance, you have the omen of dental annulment that allows your next annul to remove only suffix mods. So you don't know which suffix mod is going to remove, but you actually have like at least an idea of what it's going to remove next. So you know, okay, my suffix mods are only going to be affected. My prefixes are safe. Especially if you have like the perfect prefix roll, you don't want those to get affected. You know what I mean? And then some people combine different omens together to make sure that like their each currency is used to its optimal capabilities. And and all you need to do is just have it in your inventory. So when you get an omen, just have it in your inventory when you're spending the currency, and it will automatically be consumed. It's a single use item, please keep that in mind. Another one of those omens is basically the same thing as the previous annul one. It removes suffixes, but it's for chaos orbs. So again, when if you're like a master crafter, and or you're getting to becoming a master crafter, one of the things you're gonna have to look into is omens, just so you don't waste your time, and just overall just gives you a bigger quality of life. So definitely look into omens. So it also has a pinnacle boss, as I said before, and not one of the ways, but the only way that you could access him is by doing these tributes on T15 maps, and you have a chance to get a King of the Mist, or I think it's called Audience with the King fragment item from the tribute menu, from the vendor menu, right? By that, you're gonna need a lot of tributes, so you're gonna have to like play all of the tributes around to get enough of the currency to buy it. Once you are able to buy it, essentially you just put that shit into the realm gate, and there you go. That's your key to the pinnacle boss. You're now fighting my boy King of the fucking Mist. One of the main farms that I've heard about. Opening up the uniques that drop from him. A couple of things is, of course, the one and only, the Ingenuity Utility Belt, which reduces charges gained, reduces charms charged used, but it increases the bonuses gained from left and right equipped rings. Broken, and it gets up to 20 to 30%. Once you get it up to those level 100 endgame builds, they're most likely running Ingenuity, because rings in this game give you the most benefit, the most bang for your buck, and if you could just boost those bonuses in any way, you have a pretty cracked build. Depending on the percentages, though, it could run you from like couple exalts to couple divines, but I just know Ingenuity is one of the bigger chase items, and definitely something that you would want to farm King of the Mist for. Pragmatism, which is an explorer armor, charms you use no charges, but it gives you negative 17% to chaos resistance. Any chaos resistance nullification kind of feels bad to me, because you barely get chaos res to begin with, so to each its own. You have a chiming staff, skills gain 1% of damage as chaos damage per 3 life cost. Ooh, skill mana cost converted to life cost. So it's like a life tap, built-in life tap into its staff. That's pretty sick. From nothing diamond, so passives in radius of passive skill can be allocated without being connected to your tree. Fucking sick. Any way to just travel throughout those nodes on the passive tree is always beneficial, because it is so damn huge. It's a subway map. So that from nothing diamond sounds pretty baller. But yeah, I mean, I think Ritual is a really good beginner level seasonal mechanic. Super simple to learn. Gives you a reason to keep chasing them through, having multiple tributes and not knowing exactly what you're going to be getting. It's fairly hard, don't get me wrong, because each one of the tributes, as you're doing them, progressively add more and more rare monsters, so it could be fairly tough, but it also is one of the quicker ones. Like, each one of the tributes take, with the good build, like 30 seconds, 45 seconds to really complete, maybe a minute. But nothing too considerably crazy. What I will say is far as tributes, to definitely look at the Atlas tree, because I know the Atlas tree gives you some chances to boost how much tribute you get. And knowing how much the audience of the King fragment costs, you would want to boost to that tribute as much as possible. Before we call it clips to the video, because we're already getting up to an hour, I didn't even expect it to be this long. And also I have to edit this shit too, so, and then I know once I start looking at it, I'm probably gonna be like, do you want to record it again? But last thing I want to touch on, just really quickly, steamroll through it, is a couple additional seasonal mechanics that you're going to witness through it. Some of them, like for instance, strong boxes, the first one we're going to talk about, you're able to get them as white and then put currency items on top of it to make, like, build it into a rare strong box and build it into exactly what you want, and it adds modifiers to the monsters that it spawns, because once you tap it, essentially, like it says, it's protected by a certain amount of packs of monsters. Kill all those monsters, then it opens. But what I specifically like about strong boxes is the unique strong boxes that sometimes spawn, and you just basically gamble your money away with hopes of getting some crazy ass rolls. Like, I've seen people drop like 5 divines from it, like fucking 30 chaoses. Like, it's crazy. So, and most of the time it's the researchers strong box. I'm not too familiar, but it's one of them. But look out for those unique strong boxes. Then you got rogue exiles that essentially are um, exiles that are rogue. But you kill them, they're hard as shit because they basically are a player character. It's just you're not playing them. But you kill them and they drop their whole kit. So everything from the cap all the way down to the fucking boots, weapons, everything. Sometimes they are carrying some absolutely cracked shit. I like to think of it as me fighting, me being the shadow for them in their own in their own hardcore server, and me fucking them up in their hardcore server and them losing everything. It's a very is a very villainous concept, but you know, you're doing God's work at the end of the day. Shout out to Rogue Exiles. Not the jewels, the amulets and shit that they drop are pretty goated too. So always look at the amulets. Then you got essences, which is another way of crafting. Essentially, there's gonna be like a big crystal that grows out of the ground. You walk up to it, it'll tell you which essence it's gonna drop. Open it up, there's gonna be a monster inside. Fuck him up. There's gonna be like 4 other monsters on his side too. Be careful, they're most likely magic. Uh, and once you fuck them up, they drop an essence, which it could be a whisper or a scream, and you apply those to, it'll say like apply to a magic or apply to a rare, and it guarantees you a specific modifier, so it'll tell you exactly which modifiers it adds to your weapon. So a lot of times people like to use that instead of, you know, the annul transmute and the transmute augment, fuck, what is it, transmute to augmentation method. They use whispers just to kind of guarantee their build. So whispers are very, very beneficial if you're going the crafting route. You have wisps, which I like to consider it, if you ever watch Harry Potter, it's almost like the fucking expecto patronum, his fucking patronus charm. Essentially these little Tinkerbells be flying across different maps, and you just chase them as they pass through monsters. They start to get affected by the little Tinkerbell and they become stronger. Then it affects a rare monster, and you know, it says like hunted by the wolf or whatever the case is. Kill that monster, get decent items from it. Nothing too crazy. I don't really play around with wisps too much, just because I haven't really gotten much from the loot pool, but I'm sure that you could tier into it very well and probably get some better equipment from it. Just me personally, it doesn't, I mean, it's just part of the base mechanic, so I always felt like I ignore it anyway, or I don't even notice it when it does happen. So I'm sure I'm missing a couple, but oh, of course, I'm going to talk about this in a different video, but the trials, so the trials of chaos and the trials of honor, or whatever that bullshit is, I'll talk about that in a separate video. But for this one, I just wanted to talk about strictly in-map seasonal mechanics. And yeah, hopefully I educated y'all, man. I feel like I blabbered a lot, but hopefully I gave y'all some good pieces of information. Do not get intimidated by the end game, by the way. It's scary, I know, but I promise you, You gonna fucking steamroll through that shit once you get the hang of it.